Okay, so things are getting quite crazy during spoiler season. I mean, even the Weatherlight is now somehow a Phyrexian. So, if you haven't seen my episode on the Weatherlight completed just yet, make sure you check that episode out. But do not check that episode out just yet because, well, on this episode, well, we've got a card, and, as you dig further and further into it, oh my goodness, is this card overpowered? And that card would be Ratadrabik. I think it's Ratadrabik of Urborg. Correct me below in the comments if I'm wrong on that. That reminds me of, the name reminds me of like Raga Draga or whatever that one that we got from a recent set. But obviously a very different card. A 3/3 zombie wizard with vigilance and ward 2 for 2 white-black. It also has other zombies you control at vigilance, so at this point you're probably thinking, oh, okay, Orzhov zombies. That's, not too bad at all. And then let's just keep reading. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it's a 2/2 black zombie distributed to other colors and types. My goodness, is there a lot going on here. And there's, again, some things that I guess weren't omitted, but were added with that, except it's not legendary, which make a massive impact on this card. So while it's, not, exactly a zombie tribal deck, it is a Legends tribal deck, and this commander is fantastic. This commander is incredibly powerful. This commander, again, pretty low to the ground, 4 mana, has some protection there with that ward 2, makes zombie token copies that are not legendary of your legendary creatures that you get immediately. And also, for whatever reason, on top of all that, cool, your zombies have vigilance. Great. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, okay, again, this is one of those commanders where you just, you keep looking at more and more cards and you're like, oh, okay, this is getting better. Oh my goodness, this is even better. Oh no, you can do that too? Oh, gross. Oh, gross. Oh, gross. And now, if I see this commander on the other side of the table, I absolutely need to take it out, if I can, because of that ward 2. So make sure you try your best to take this out pretty quickly, because things can get out of control really quickly if you don't. Now, if you up there are interested in building whatever kind of a deck around Ratadrabik, whatever you want to call it, of Urborg, make sure you check out the link in the description below for the list of the cards I'm talking about on this episode, because when new, exciting, and incredibly powerful commanders get spoiled, sometimes cards, that work really well with them tend to go up in price sooner rather than later. So make sure you check out that link in those cards, and with all that said, let's jump into it. I mean, first up, when we're talking about legendary creatures, that deal with death, death triggers specifically, Kakusho, the Evening Star, definitely comes to mind. Kakusho is a 5/5 Dragon Spirit with flying that says when it dies, each opponent loses 5 life. You gain life through life lost this way. So in Commander, you are draining, 15 life essentially in total, 3 players, 5 life apiece, and you are gaining 15 because of that. And of course, with this commander, it's like, so Kakusho died. Great. Oh, that's a legendary creature. Here's a 2/2 zombie version of it, which just has flying and vigilance now, which is pretty funny. Regardless, also when that dies, you also get to drain your opponents again. And there's, of course, ways to make this even crazier, and we'll get to those here in a bit. But yeah, I mean, this essentially just says, hey, do your creatures have death triggers or ETBs or whatnot? Do your legendary creatures have those and care about those? Let's make them twice as effective. And how about yet another one of those dragon spirits, the lovely Yosai the Morningstar. When it dies, target player skips their next untap step. Tap into 5 target permanents that player controls. So this on its own can basically shut a player down from a turn, basically, tap down their lands or keep their lands tapped down. And again, obviously, with that token copy version of it, if you can sacrifice that again, cool. That player's shut down again, or another player is shut down. Yeah, either of these can definitely become win conditions once you're set up properly with a deck like this. Or how about the newer dragon spirits from Kamigawa earlier this year? Junji the Midnight Sky and Ao the Dawn Sky. And I definitely mispronounced that. I'm so sorry. Anyways, Junji is a 5/5 with flying and menace, and when it dies, choose one. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life, or put target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under your control. You lose 2 life. So this death trigger is quite fantastic with this deck. Again, you can basically get it twice, and you can choose whichever of those modes works best for you in that situation. Draining each opponent's, by 2 is not bad, and making them discard 2, doing that, twice, making them discard 4 cards can basically wipe out your opponent's hands. That's gross. Also gross is getting back, one of your massive creatures, not a dragon, again, non-dragon creature from a graveyard on the battlefield under control, but there are plenty of other gross legendary creatures that you're going to want to get back. Because again, the token that you are making, for whatever reason, is not legendary. Typically, Wizards, throws a little more caution on those things, and, includes that they would be legendary as well, or just doesn't even mention that they couldn't be not legendary. But yeah, because of that, now you can have the actual copy of the card in play, as well as the token copy too. Moving on, though, to the Dawn Sky. When it dies, choose one of the top 7 cards of your library. Put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less among them on the battlefield. The rest among your library in a random order. Or put deal with 1 counters on each permanent you control. It's a creature or vehicle. So this can get you some value off the top of your library, or get your creatures massive with those counters. Speaking of massive encounters, how about Elenda the Dusk Rose? Another fantastic creature that cares about creatures dying and has a massive death trigger itself. Elenda is a 1/1 with lifelink, so ironically, if you get a zombie version of this, it's going to be more powerful. Regardless, whenever another creature dies, put a +1 counter on Elenda the Dusk Rose. And then when Elenda dies, you get X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Elenda's power. So again, a legendary creature that cares about creatures dying, and you're going to have a lot of that happen with a deck like this. And then when it dies, you get a massive amount of vampires with lifelink. And then, of course, you're also going to get a token copy version of this that is just bigger. A 2/2 versus a 1/1, and it's also going to be a zombie, so it also has vigilance too. And then it's going to grow when your creatures die, and then you can sacrifice that as well, with one of many ways. And then you can, make even more vampire tokens. Speaking of sacrificing creatures, Ayara is here. Whenever it or other black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. And on top of that, tap, sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. So this can help drain your opponents for a ton in a lot of circumstances, and gain you a lot of life as well. And of course, on top of that, a great way to sacrifice these creatures that might have, death triggers, to get some card advantage out of this. Or how about Sidisi Undead Vizier for some, fantastic value? A 4/6 with Death Touch and Exploit. When it exploits a creature, you may search your library for a card, put in your hand, then shuffle your library. So Sidisi can essentially sacrifice any of your creatures, including itself when it comes into play, to go tutor for any card. And of course, with that, if you sacrifice Sidisi, you immediately are going to get a token copy of it, which you can then sacrifice. So this is basically go tutor for 2 cards. Again, the deeper you dive into this commander, the more ridiculous things can get. And speaking of which, there's plenty of other fantastic ETBs that you can utilize with this commander again and again and again, with cards like God Eternal Bantu, Demon Lord Belzenlock, and Torgar. God Eternal Bantu is a 5/6 zombie god with menace. Keep in mind, it is already a zombie, so it will have vigilance thanks to your commander. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents and draw that many cards. So this can draw you a ton of cards, and also help, sacrifice creatures that have death triggers or whatnot. And then, once this dies, you get that trigger again. And of course, once this dies as well, you can actually put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. So great, you can get God Eternal Bantu out pretty quickly again. And speaking of getting cards in your hand, though, there's Demon Lord Belzenlock, a 6/6 flying trample other demon, unfortunately not a zombie, but still. When it enters the battlefield, exile cards from the top of your library to exile a non-land card, then put that card into your hand. If that card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, repeat this process. Demon Lord Belzenlock deals 1 damage to you for each card put in your hand this way. As I've already demonstrated, there are plenty of ways to gain life in these colors, an absurd amount of life at that. So yeah, that's not a big deal, that life loss, but we'll take all those giant cards into our hand, thank you, and then do it again when we get that trigger again. And speaking of a really fun ETB, we've got Torgar, which says, additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This spell is going to cost 2 less cast for each creature sacrificed this way. So though this does cost 8, it can cost as little as just 2, and we can sacrifice a ton of creatures to get their death triggers or whatever we need. And on top of that, when it enters the battlefield, up to 1 target player's life total becomes half their starting life total, rounded down. So yeah, sacrifice creatures for fun, and cast this for very cheap, and then tell one of your friends, excuse me, I know your life total right now is at 40, but we're going to set you down to 20. Oh, and then I'll sacrifice this with something else, and then I'll get a tone copy of it that's a zombie. And then your life total is also down to 22. Just trying to spread the love. Speaking of which, our lovely friends can even help us utilize their own cards with Gonti, Lord of Luxury. Gonti is a 2/3 with Death Touch, so yeah, getting a zombie version of it is, well, not really all that much worse, and in fact, actually might even be better because we can just keep swinging with it. Regardless, when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, and the rest of them on your library in a random order. We look at and cast that card remains exiled, and spend a mana of any color. You know, basically, you just steal an opponent's card off the top of their library, and you can do this twice again, thanks to this commander. So yeah, of course, there are plenty of fantastic value-centric legendary creatures in these colors, and you can get an absurd amount of value out of them with this kind of a deck. Now for some really gross stuff, though, because my goodness, do things just go up to another notch when Teysa is involved with a deck like this. If a creature causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. On top of that, because this card needed more, creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. So again, Teysa really does not need that line of text at all, and I don't know why Wizards put that on there. But for this commander, you're pretty happy that that's included. Obviously, if your commander ever gets dealt with, yeah, sure, extra vigilance is great for coverage there. But lifelink, yeah, now all of those zombie creature token copies of your legendary creatures have lifelink. But of course, on top of that, and more importantly, you double up all of your death triggers with this, which is absurd. Especially when you're considering that your commander has a death trigger, obviously. So now whenever one of your legendary creatures dies, you get 2 token copies of it that, again, aren't legendary for whatever reason, so you can keep both of them. And of course, you know, if that legendary creature had a death trigger, or if you've got any other death triggers that are going to happen because that creature died, you get twice as many. So let's even just consider just Kakusho, our commander Kakusho and Teysa Karlov in play, okay? We've sacrificed Kakusho, you know, they spell or sacrifice outlet, etc., etc., etc. Regardless, Kakusho dies, okay? Each of our opponents is drained 5 twice. Because again, Teysa says, oh, I see that death trigger, let's double it up. But yeah, so they're drained 10 each. We gain 30 life from that. We also double up our commander's trigger, and we get 2 token copies of Kakusho that, again, aren't legendary. So then we, say, sacrifice them. Cool, we just drain our opponents for another 20 each and gain 40 more life. And again, that is just the potential with just one other legendary creature involved when it comes to Teysa Karlov interacting with our commander. Disgusting. Speaking of which, Sir Conrad is going to love this deck as well. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put in a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. Yeah, creatures are going to be going here, there, and everywhere when it comes to graveyards, going and leaving, and yeah, it is going to get gross, and you're going to deal a ton of damage with this. And again, even if your opponents deal with Sir Conrad, yeah, you just get another copy of it. That then is a zombie. So have fun with that. Let's keep getting grosser. How about Mikaeus the Unhallowed? Whenever a human deals damage to you, destroy it. I always forget that part, but yeah, I mean, that can be relevant. Also, other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Undying. So that's incredibly disgusting. Basically, all those non-human legendary creatures that we have, when they die, again, we get a token copy of them. And also, if Mikaeus is in play, the original is going to come right back with a +1 counter on it. So again, if they've got a death trigger, we can get that again, and if we get an ETB trigger off them, we can just get that right away. And like I've said this like a million times now, for whatever reason, again, the token's not legendary, so we keep the token around too. Moving on, there's a Praetor that wants to join in on the fun. It's Shieldred Whispering One, and I don't know why I rhymed that. Anyways, at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. This is an absurd amount of value for us and an extremely bad thing for our opponents. And yeah, we can just keep getting our creatures back to keep getting their ETBs and death triggers again and again and again. And again, our opponents are going to be losing their creatures at a rapid rate. But we can also just get our creatures back with some more incredible legends with Athreos God of Passage and Liesa Forgotten Ancient. Athreos has, as long as your motion of white and black is less than 7, it's not a creature, but yeah, we can easily get to that, and then, yeah, have this as a creature so we can get a copy of it when it dies, if it ever dies, because it's indestructible. Regardless, and more importantly, whenever another creature you own dies, return to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. So this can either help us drain our opponents quite quickly, or again, if they don't have enough life really to utilize that life to stop us from doing this, we can just keep getting our creatures back again and again and again. Speaking of which, Liesa has, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return the card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. And on top of that, if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So yeah, like Athreos, but there is no choice here, though it is a delayed kind of bring back the creature, but still. Yeah, ways that we can utilize our creatures again and again and again are fantastic, especially when they come on legendary creatures. And when it comes to talking about legendary creatures, my goodness, is Primeval's Glorious Rebirth incredible in this deck. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we've got all those zombie token versions of our legendary creatures that we sacrificed in play, and then we just play this and we're like, oh, by the way, all the originals are back too. Good luck, opponents, with all the shenanigans that are going to be happening and all this power. It's going to be tough to deal with. I mean, and of course, there are plenty of other great reanimation cards in these colors. I mean, Victimize is a great one. Choose to target creature cards in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. This one not only lets us sacrifice a creature, which again, can be a great benefit to get whatever death triggers, including our commander, and then also to get 2 more creatures back that again might have some powerful ETBs or even more death triggers that we can take advantage of. I mean, even one of our lands can help us with this deck, Malkia Rebirth. It says, choose target creature. You lose 2 life until end of turn the creature gains. When this creature dies, turn to the battlefield, tapped on its owner's control. So even if our creature dies, cool, we get a token copy of it, and then we get it right back, again, for just 1 mana and 2 life, but who cares? 2 life, come on. And of course, there are plenty of other fantastic effects just like this one that can work really well in this deck. And I haven't even gotten to Annoying Procession, okay? I mentioned all these other crazy things that are going on. But yeah, if you've got the money for Annoying Procession and you want to just, make the most out of this deck, sure. Throw $30 or whatever it is right now for Annoying Procession, because, hey, if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under control, it creates twice the many of those tokens instead. And again, like I've said like 18 times already, for whatever reason, those zombie versions of your legends are not legendary, so they stick around. Doubling up your tokens is gross. You know what else is gross? Song of the World Soul, and it's one of my favorite cards of all time. Whenever you cast a spell, populate. That is an incredible effect in this deck. Okay, I mean, it can even really be broken in certain circumstances. Because again, when you populate, you create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control. Again, they're not legendary, so you can just keep getting as many as you need to, so what's to say you don't want like 8 Teysa Karlovs in play? I mean, have fun with that math whenever a legendary creature you control dies, and then you get how many token copies of that? Plus all the other lovely death triggers, yet your opponents are just gone as soon as you get things going. Really, it's going to be just ridiculous once you get set up with this deck. I mean, this commander has so much potential, it's absurd. Oh yeah, and obviously you've got access to black, so you've got access to the best tutors, so have fun going and getting whatever you want. Obviously, I'm going to go get Song of the World Soul, being one of my favorite cards and being a fantastic card with this commander. But yeah, you've got access to incredible tutors in this deck, including, I already mentioned Sidisi, a creature, a legendary creature that tutors and helps you tutor multiple times with this kind of a deck and with this commander. Oh, and of course, okay, I just need to mention one more thing. I literally forgot I was going to bring up these cards, but I'm glad I didn't. Yeah, obviously this commander it helps you with zombies too, so if you've got legendary creatures that just care about zombies too, awesome. I mean, Kalitas, Trader of Get, 3/4 lifelink. If a non-token creature opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. Cool. I mean, if your opponent's creatures die, you get zombies, and also now they're vigilant zombies thanks to your commander. So yes, you can take advantage of that. And on top of that, pay 2 and a black, sacrifice another vampire or zombie, put 2/1 counters on this creature. So now this also can just be a great sacrifice outlet as well for your zombie versions of your legendary creatures. If they've got death triggers, yeah, that's just great. Speaking of sacrifice outlets, go call Gisa. Pay a black, tap, sacrifice another creature, create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, direct the sacrifice creature's power. Great, we can now get death triggers, including our commanders, with this while making a ton of zombies, which again are going to be vigilant zombies, so good luck, opponents. But now this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on, all right, here we go. Ratadrabik of Urborg. I think I did it, probably not. Ratadrabik. Again, it keeps coming to my head, the one from the last set or whatever. Ragadraga or whatever. It's not that, but it you know. How to pronounce it aside, nevertheless, my thoughts on this are, my goodness, is this powerful. There are incredibly disgusting things that you can do. There are crazy things you can take advantage of. Again, ETBs, death triggers, etc., etc., etc. There are so many crazy things you can do, and I cannot believe, again, Wizards, who usually is overly cautious of these kind of things, I cannot believe they put the text in there, except it's not legendary. I don't know why they did that. I'm not saying I'm upset that they did that. I just don't know why they did that when they, nerf a lot of other things for, less reason. I'm looking at you, Willow Dusk. Activate only is a sorcery. Come on, Wizards. But, yeah, okay. That aside, this commander is incredibly powerful. I can see it being very popular. I mean, players are just going to enjoy just throwing a ton of very powerful legendary creatures in a deck and, having an absurd amount of value. Yeah, I think there's a lot of players out there that are going to enjoy that. So if you are interested in this commander, please make sure you check out that link in the description below to the list of the cards I talked about on this episode, and consider picking up some of those sooner rather than later, because again, when new commanders are spoiled, new powerful commanders like this one are spoiled, that might become very popular. Well, sometimes cards that work well with it tend to go up in price. And of course, if you haven't seen my other quick takes from the spoiler season, check those out, and also stay tuned for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show has come to a close, so it's my turn here from you. So the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.